Hello, hi, good evening. Welcome to another session of Graphology questions and queries. I'm happy to be live and ready to receive your questions and thoughts and ideas. As we have people tuning in and coming in online, we shall be able to get more queries about this subject. All right. Okay, so let's go for the first question here. All right. So the first question I've received here is, how can you improve a person's ability to make decisions with handwriting? So, there are instances in life where you choose what you want, you do the planning, you do the homework, and everything is good. But when it comes time to decide when, why, what, that corner of your life where you have to actually do and start doing things, that decision making can be seen in sharp formations of letter structures. So let's take for example, you have a letter N or you have the letter M. Instead of having a retraced M or a retraced N, we would I would recommend you to have a slightly angular N and a slightly angular M. With that, what will happen is that you will be able to be sharp in the way you conduct your thought patterns, and the way you the way you uh, make the decisions would be much more clearer. Okay, let me show you a small example of this. I'll just write this on a piece of paper and I'll show it to you on the camera. So normally, if you want to be a better decision maker and you want to improve that aspect of your life, then it would be good to have a slight angle in the M and a slight angle in the N. Okay, so I hope you see this over here. You see, this is a retraced M and a retraced N. This tends to make you obedient. It's good for work. But this is what you want to do if you want to make sure that your mind is able to make strong decisions. Okay. So when you're having an ability to have strong decision making power, then we can make progress in life, do things which are much better. Okay. So let's go for the next question. Next question here is, how do I increase my immune system and health through graphology? Well, graphology can first of all help you identify certain health issues or health issues that may occur. Also, it can help you to lead a lifestyle that is lesser stressful. When you reduce stress, it makes it very easy for the body to handle itself. Okay, so whether you are a teacher or a midlife person or a young person or an old person, no matter what stage, profession, responsibility you have, you can 100% do it. But the moment you have stress about it, your body is going to be compromised, and that's when you will have all sorts of health issues. Okay, so just make sure that if you learn graphology or if you take up graphotherapy, make sure that the person who's teaching you, it could be me or anybody, that the stress factor needs to be reduced. So there are many graphotherapy techniques, there are many techniques for improving letter structures, better curves, better connections, better pen stops. There are multiple things you can do for writing practice that can reduce stress, which will ultimately make your immune system and your body health, body language also better. See, emotional and mental stress can directly affect the physical part of the body, and if it's not treated directly and if it's not given attention at the correct time, it can compound, and over the period of years it can become a chronic problem. And then when you go to the doctor is barely going to consider the emotional and mental source of your problems. And that's where your problems, even if you get medicines, it's not going to get sorted because the source of the problem is not taken care of. Okay, all right. Next question here is uh, what is the meaning of a retraced B? Now, I think I've explained this in my letter B video. You can go and watch it over there again. I'll just explain in short. Letter B is where we have a thought pattern or a mindset of using knowledge for ourselves. Okay. So when our knowledge is used for ourselves with a retraced B, that means we go according to the textbook or we go according to what we've learned exactly. Let's say, for example, if I am a gym trainer, I will do my gym workouts for myself exactly the way I have been taught. I won't try to do anything fancy or something different or put my own thing into it. No, not nothing that way. I'll be doing things exactly the way I have to, and it kind of makes the person obedient, and it helps the person to be more particular about what he is doing. But then, of course, if he wants to reinvent himself and do things uniquely, that's not going to be easy. Okay. Now, next question here is what is the chances of life improving if signature improvement is just personality improvement? Wow, this is a very good question. Yes, signature only represents a personality, and personality is one part of your huge character. But it is what people see. So if you improve your signature, it may help you to improve your interactions with the people around you. It may help you to increase the quality of people who approach you, and the overall interactions of life become very much, what I would say, smooth and lovely. Okay, all right. Is that understood? Now, next question. Uh, how come we okay? How do we overcome shyness by graphology? Introversion can be sometimes a very big task, and it's not easy for a person who's shy or introvert to be a bit outspoken. So normally, what I do is that if you want to improve your ability to speak, first improve your self worth. Give at least 5 compliments to yourself in the morning when you wake up. Just tell yourself, I'm confident, I have a good body, I'm taking care of myself, I can speak clearly, I brush my hair well, I wear good clothes, I wear good color combinations. Whatever you feel is good about you, compliment yourself. So, as you start to appreciate yourself, it will help to build a certain level of confidence that is required to make sure that you are able to express yourself. And being introvert is not a bad thing, but what happens is that sometimes when you want to speak your mind, and you should speak your mind, if the environment is correct and the chance is perfect for you, but when you step back, you may miss out a chance and an opportunity to get some advantage or get some benefit of the interaction. So you can try to improve your letter size slight bit. Maybe if your letter O size is 3 mm, make it 4 mm. Slight increase in middle zone or handwriting size. Maybe you can have a slight italics kind of a slant. You know how Microsoft Word has italics which goes from straight slightly right, just a tiny bit right. Okay. Of course, now this is just a general way of improving shyness and introversion, self-complimenting, appreciating yourself, and then using certain handwriting techniques. But if you could send me a handwriting sample, then I can do a tailor-made graphotherapy session for you, which will help you to get this effect of confidence and being a bit outspoken in a better way, in a faster way. Okay. Next question is, uh, what does loop in the lower half of O mean? I think this question has been asked before, so please go back to the videos which has been spoken to. I mean, which have we done in the videos previously. And letter O with a loop in the lower half means that generally the person has got complications with, let's say, certain kind of questioning habit or doubtful habits about money spending or energy expenditure, or even sometimes it can question the digestion processes. But of course, it would be better to observe the letter structure before I comment anything more. Okay, so if you want me to talk about a certain letter structure, please send me an image of the letter structure directly to this WhatsApp number which I'm typing in the chat box, and that will be easy for me to explain it. Don't try to describe the letter structure because it may make a misunderstanding. Just send me a picture and I'll be happy to share it on the screen while I talk to the audience. Great. Now, next question is, how do we know if he or she is a cheater? Well, there are many ways a person can cheat, and not all cheating is bad. Sometimes you have to cheat if you have to get a certain advantage. Technically, all business is cheating, right? Because that's what profit and loss is all about. The business person can't sell the item at the exact cost which he made use to manufacture. So cheating is of different levels depending on the letter structure, depending on the severity of the deformity of the letter structure, depending on macrographology deformities. There's so many ways to understand how a person can cheat or deviate from the truth. Deviation from the truth is, in a certain way, a certain requirement of certain systems on Earth, and it's not all bad. So when you say, "How do you know she is a cheater?" We don't know necessarily if it's good or bad because this word cheater can be a huge topic. Every letter, every topic in graphology can show a certain aspect of being a cheater. Doesn't mean that the person is bad or good. It depends on the situation. Huh? If you want to give a surprise to somebody, and for the last 2 weeks you're lying to the person just to hide the surprise. Now that also is a form of cheating, but it's not too bad, right? All right. So I hope the question is being answered. Okay. So what about cheating in the exam? As a teacher, I face the same answers from my kids. Okay. So if the child is cheating in the exam, normally their extensor strokes become weaker, and we normally see that, especially in the O, M, V, W, there are certain letter structures which have extensor stroke followed by angular strokes. I mean, there are different combinations. If you learned micrographology, this will be very easy for you to understand. So weak extensor strokes are very important to search for if you want to see cheating during exam time. Okay. Now next question. All right. So how exactly does one know if the answer is copied or not? Well, obviously the content is going to match, but then there are certain discrepancies in the letter O structures, in the letter V structures, in the letter W, in the letter U, H, that tend to get deviated away from the thought pattern. And when a child genuinely writes the answer by themselves, the handwriting has got a different vibe to it of positivity because it's an honest expression. And then again, there is when the person is cheating, then that honesty is lost and that cripples certain letter structures. Okay. So if you have a sample of a person who has copied in the exam, if you're a teacher and you know that this child has copied, please send the sample to me so that we can do research. Okay. Okay. Now next question. Very interesting questions. Thank you very much for the lovely queries. Now next question here is okay. Next question is, can the desire for spicy food be seen in the writing, and if it is to be increased or reduced, how is that possible? Yes, in fact, spicy food has got certain traits. I mean, the desire for spicy food has certain traits in the writing, and we normally see it in the letter structure W, U, uh, V, M, N. Yeah, these five letters: U, U, V, W, M, and N. So, if you are able to understand these letter structures and they've got certain ink flow in their flexors, we can come to know that a person's desire for spicy food can be slightly higher, or possibility is that the ability to handle spicy food could be quite interesting, quite good. Okay, what does it mean when in the circle of a letter A there is a risk? So I don't know the nature of the letter A structure that you're saying. Please send an image of the letter structure you want to get explanation for, so that I can understand the letter structure before explaining. Does signature have any age bar? Well, the requirement of a signature normally comes once you're an adult. I mean, it depends on what level of life you're in. If you're a young person who is already an entrepreneur, then signature is going to be important for you. So ideally, after the age of 11, 12, that's when the child should be introduced into the concept of a signature. And by the age of 14, 15, they should be set with a signature which is good for them. Now, unfortunately, 99% of the times what happens is that when we design the signatures, we've got no clue, minimal clue, you could say, about the world, what our signatures going to be used for. Most of the time, we just look at some popular hero, film stars signature and like, whoa, I want to do something that way. And maybe see some uncles or some fathers, some mother's signature, which is really fancy. And then with that, what happens is that we tend to, what I would say, uh, get inspired to do fancy signatures. Now we don't realize that this signature done out of fun and out of pastime, out of just for the heck of it, will be on our property papers, on our car papers, on very important documents in the years to come. So it's very crucial that around this age, between the age of 11 to 18, normally that's when the signatures are normally determined. That's when to be guided correctly to make a good signature is very important. You can say change the signature at any point of your life, but it's very important to start as early as possible so that the annoyance of changing the signature in all your documents later on is avoided. You can go to my playlist on my YouTube channel for signature enhancement guidelines. You can watch the videos and you can share the videos. It's for free, and you can help somebody to make a better signature. All right. So I hope that's answered the question. I'll just share the signature and signature enhancement guideline link in the description over here. All right. I've shared the link in the chat box. Later, you can check it out and you can make improvements to your signature. Now, next, how to increase communication skill or be more expressive by graphology. As I just mentioned earlier, if a person wants to be slightly more extroverted and let go of introversion, then you can just try to appreciate yourself a little more, have a slightly better size of writing, slant of writing, slightly right, right slanted, and you need to send your sample to me so that I can understand what is keeping you back from expressing, and then accordingly, a graphotherapy will be given to you so that you can come out to be a more outspoken, more fluent person, and that improves connections of life. It improves the quality of life and fun of life that way. All right. So next question is, my grandfather used to sign his favorites God's name as a signature. It is the only case where I know a person signing altogether a different name. See, as I mentioned, that signature is a representative of a personality. Now, it could be your personality, or it could be mimicry, or what you can say, a tribute to some great person or a deity's energy. You want to represent that energy in your signature, and that's fine. But the thing is that if you're able to represent that signature in real life as the signature wants to be represent itself, then life becomes smooth. But if your signature represents a certain energy level and your real life doesn't match that, then you'll be in trouble. Okay. All right. So next question here is, can you please explain and possibly give example of false garland? So the best explanation for false garland is like this C and O. Normally, if I have to connect the C and O, I have to go from here, go up, and come back and make a O. Correct? It goes up and comes down. But what happens in a false garland is that the person conveniently just touches the O to the C, and to the common eye it looks like, oh, it's connected. So when letters touch each other without necessarily having a connect, that's where the false garland is. And these false garland normally indicate the mind is trying to the person's character is trying to represent a certain level of connection or a story or a certain situation that is not true. The person may boast about things that are not true. The person may say things which are not true. And with that, what happens is that over a period of time, these people just feel a bit fake in the way they manage themselves. Okay. Now, next question. Handwriting pattern of a funny and humorous person. Actually, this is a very important aspect of graphology. We are doing research on how to see funny and humorous people because it's very difficult. Why I'm saying, because humor and being funny requires a certain level of intelligence, and that intelligence to be used in the form of a jovial manner is a very fine art. You see, some people when they try to be funny or they are being funny, we don't feel like laughing, or we feel that their jokes are just a bit lackluster, or there's a very ordinary feeling you get when the person tries to make you laugh. But some people, they say these one liners, they say these one sentence, and you just crack up like crazy. And sometimes, I mean, 90% times you're laughing, you don't know how that sentence came up, but 10% of times you realize that wow, that took intelligence. So humor is like a very nice form of intelligence. It's a better form of intelligence. Of course, when it's overdone in the form of sarcasm and all that, then of course you become obnoxious. But it's just a matter of balancing it. So when we see intelligence traits in the writing, we can get clues of a humorous person, but that still needs research. All right. So next is so the next question is how do you see insecurity in the handwriting and insecure in regard of anything? So insecurity normally comes when the letter structure starts to deviate from its original form. Insecurity, lack of clarity, confusion, all these things happen when the person loses certain loses the structural integrity of certain letter structures. So what letter structure loses its integrity will show you where the person's insecurity can come up. But normally if we have to see on a general basis, letter O, letter letter O, letter S, and insecurity letter T, and capital letters E, F can show certain levels of insecurity. I mean, depends on how the letter structure is malformed that way. Where can I send a sample? I've just shared my WhatsApp number, or you can connect with me on my email address. I'll share my email address on the link below this video once the video recording is over. Once this session is over, you can connect with me then. How to increase concentration, focus, and reduce confusion through graphology? This has been asked before at least 4 to 5 times, and I would kindly request you to go back to the videos of the last 15, 16 sessions, and actually I'll be improving your ability to find this query in the list of videos by putting it in the description. By probably next week, by within a couple of days, it should be done. Okay. Normally, to increase focus and concentration and reduce confusion, you have to first increase interest in the activity or the thing which you are trying to focus on. Once interest improves, everything gets sorted out automatically. Next question is, what does it mean when the circle of the letter A has a line inside? Please send an image of the letter structure that you want explanation for. I will not explain your query until and unless I get the image of the letter structure. Okay. So now next question is, where can we see patience in the person? Well, patience is the best place to see patience in the handwriting is in the letter W, U, and S. These three letters show a very good way of how the person is patient. Actually, any letter structure which has curve, it could be C, it could be A, it could be O, it could be D. Any curvature represents a certain level or certain perspective of patience. But ideally speaking, we look at letter W, U, and S. These three letters is very important for identifying patients. So of course, with the if the W, U, and S are very thin, it should be healthy, but it's thin, then it's less patience. Next question here we've got is, can we improve? What's this question? Please reform the question. I mean, somebody sent a question on my email. Please resend the email with a better rephrased question. All right. All right. So next question here is, how can I improve endurance and muscle strength through handwriting? Yes, muscle strength and endurance can be seen in the writing, and it can be improved through certain letter practices. First, we need to have a good meditative practice of letter O. It will help to improve the catabolic and anabolic processes of the body, which improves muscle response and growth and strength. Secondly, if we increase the pressure of our handwriting slightly, it can improve nervous system's energy to to push more energy into the muscle. The energy in the muscle is highly dependent on the electricity that is flowing into the muscle. For example, I'll give you an example of how electricity is very important for strength of a muscle. If I told you, can you pick up a gas cylinder and put it on your head and throw it up and play with it? You say, what? A gas cylinder? A gas cylinder weighs 20 kilos, 15 to 20 kilos. How am I supposed to pick it up and just play with it? You think I'm crazy? So you see, the moment I ask this question, your muscles don't feel that strength to lift up a 15-20 kilo gas cylinder and throw it up. But if I told you to play with your child, who is, let's say, around 6 to 7 years old, and now that child is easily 20-25 kilos. But now the thing is that as soon as he jumps on you, you pick him up, you throw him. For at least half an hour, you'll be playing with the child, which is much more heavier than the gas cylinder. But still, you don't feel any much of a stress about it. Why? Because the electricity in your the nervous system is thrusting more electricity, more energy into the nerves. Sorry, into the muscle, and that's where the strength comes from. So your intention and your emotions can suddenly improve your muscle strength depending on the situation. A gas cylinder of 20 kilos and a child of 20 kilos scientifically is the same weight, but psychologically the child is lighter. And if you're psychologically considering the child lighter, that means physical weight or mental weight or emotional weight, all weights can be handled depending on your psychology, right? Okay, so next question is, what about ambidextrous people if they have different handwritings from both hands? Yes, the reason why their handwritings are slightly different or sometimes quite different from both the hands is because the part of the brain that is being used to write is slightly different. And in comparison, the same thought is expressed in a slightly different manner. Although I have had the opportunity to analyze only two samples of people who are ambidextrous, as I get more samples to analyze, I'll be able to do more research and then come to a conclusion of how it actually affects the writing. Okay, so the next question here is, all right. Next question here is, so for ladies, they face some difficult situations at offices from male colleagues. Can we know can we know from whom to say stay away from and whom to be aware of? Oh, okay. So let's say you're a woman working in an office, and obviously, in the current scenario, the chances of you having more male members, more male colleagues is going to be slightly higher. And we can't vouch for the integrity of all these male people. I mean, there'll be cheap men, and there'll be cheap women. Cheapness has got no gender, but unfortunately, we see it more in men because men are, in a certain way, inherently stupid. They don't know their boundaries, and the mind, when they think about certain things, they don't think from the brain, they think from other parts of the body. So, when you have such a difficult situation, when men are unnecessarily uh, making your career life and your office life a little difficult, what you can do is look out for these traits. Now I'll show this trait to you on the screen, and if you see this in the writing, then you can learn to stay away a bit. All right, so let's take, for example, we've got these two letter structures, okay, M and K. Now you see the M, the last part is dragged slightly lower, and the K is dragged slightly lower. So when you have something called as a unnecessary low zone, you see, I have cut off the M over there and still the M exists. That means this extra stroke over here is not required. So when you have something called as unnecessary lower zone, that's when you can sometimes see that the person is being unnecessarily, you could say, lecherous, or trying to be suggestive about a thing which is apart from being professional. Now, the thing is that if you see a handwriting sample and you see one or two or a couple of them in the writing, that's not a bad thing, because ultimately, if you're in office, people are coming there to do work, and money mindedness is going to be there. So, money mindedness, physicality, sexuality, that happens in the office. But then what happens is people don't know where to draw the line. And that's where, if you see a person doing very gracious, unnecessary lower zones, then that's a red flag. You need to be careful. So if you're a boss of your organization, you can check out your employees and protect them from unnecessary complications. And if you're an employee, then you can protect yourself. Of course, there are many other letter structures, like too many loops in the letter O, too many loops in the letter A, and the person's letters are not very clear, very manipulated. Normally, this leads to certain behaviors which are not acceptable in a professional environment. Okay, and let's take for example, if you do suspect that there's a person in your office who's unnecessarily troubling you, or the way they behave seems like they're being more than just professionally suggestive, then you can click a picture of the writing and send it to me, and we can discuss about it. Why not? If you're a graphologist, then very good. Take care of yourself, protect yourself, or come and learn. I'll teach you how to do it through a course, or you can just connect with me and I'll do the analysis for you. And we can come to know whether the person is really to be kept at a distance, or is just maybe a one off happening. Okay. Now remember, when this trait of the writing is in a greeting card or in a fancy letter, or if you have some fun occasion, don't worry about unnecessary lotions at that time. It's only on official documents or on a properly written document where there's no fanciness required, and then also the person does unnecessary lotions, then you have to be careful. The more number of these traits you see in the writing, unnecessary low zones, loopy O's, loopy A's, very congested kind of writing, then you have to be careful. Or what you can do is do an experiment which I would not recommend. This would be like, you go and tell a person in your office, maybe you've got a good rapport, tell them for next 1 week you have to be absolutely uh, cheap with everybody around you. Okay, I mean, you can just tell them, okay, you have to be cheap with me, you have to be awkward with me, you have to talk about nonsense things with me, and after a week, check that person's handwriting and see if these traits come out. If the person on purpose also, even if in an experiment, behaves cheaply, behaves in a rude and a very rough manner, in a very unrefined manner, not professional, that can also leak into the handwriting, and then you can see what to look out for. Of course, then you have to tell the person come back to normal, otherwise they get used to it. Okay. All right. I hope the question is answered so far. This has been really interesting. We've got 20 minutes left. Keep the questions coming. They're very interesting. All right. Does the next question is, does vocally reciting a prayer or writing a prayer make a difference? Oh, this is a very interesting question. So, if you have some holy prayer which you pray every day, is your voice going to give you a different or better effect, or will writing the prayer have a different or better effect? So, let's talk about it in two ways. It won't be necessarily better either with handwriting or with a voice, because each one has its own properties. With voice, what happens is that you can modulate your voice in a certain way, and then when you say that prayer in a certain tone of voice, it creates a vibration in your body. Now, if you write the prayer, then the body language tends to absorb that learning within you, which can convert into a physical body language of prayer. Both have got their advantages. There's no disadvantage. Both have got advantages. Do both if you like. Now, if you do both and you want to see what would happen, is that first of all, in a vocally said prayer, you need to have that certain tone of voice, a certain environment to invoke that prayer. Now, let's say, for example, you know a prayer, but you put a rock star music behind it, you're not going to get that vibe from it. Okay, there's a certain energy level that is required. Isn't it strange that whether you go to a church or a temple or a mosque or anywhere, always the priest or the pandit or whoever's the person who's reciting a prayer, they all seem to have that certain tone of voice. No matter what your religion, no matter what your culture, once somebody says that you have to say a prayer, a certain tone of voice, a certain tune is used. It sometimes feels a bit serious, sometimes it feels a bit heavenly, especially if many people pray at one time, and it feels good. 99% of times you don't even understand what the prayer is all about, but you feel nice. So that tone of voice and the nature of the voice, the the pace of the prayer, all that matters. Okay, you can't just recite prayer like a poetry and just get over with it. That doesn't make sense. You have to be into it. Now, what happens with writing is that you can slow down this process of going through the prayer and really enjoy the nature of the letter structures. And if you are fortunate enough to know multiple languages, then you can write the prayer in different languages and see how that body language affects you. I do that a couple of times. See, now let's take for example, I'll just show you here. Now there are multiple prayers. There are different prayers in the world which you can practice now. Uh, now, my religion is Parsi. I'm a Zoroastrian. So we have a prayer which is like this. So I've written the Hindi scripture of it, I've written the English scripture of it, and I've written the English meaning of it. So you see, I've done some calligraphic kind of fancy writing, and I really enjoy the slow process of writing, which puts the brakes on the prayer and really makes you go through each and every word. So it almost feels meditative, at the same time holistic, and even if I can't put a word to it, it's good that I can't put a word to it, because it's a very nice feeling. It's a feeling which you can't put words on. So what you do is you try to have your voice and your surroundings and your place in a certain way, and then when you pray, you really feel the vibe of what you're saying, even if you don't understand it logically. And if you write down the prayer, have a special pen, have a special notebook, and practice it 5 times a day, 10 times a day. It will get a body language effect to you, which should be beneficial. The older the prayer and the more native the language, the stronger the effect, because that's how long it has lasted. So let's say, for example, if you're writing a Muslim prayer, it would be better to write it in the Arabic script, because probably that's from where it's originated. That nature of its tone is better in the Arabic form. Even though I don't understand the Arabic, the nature of that handwriting will teach me something. If I'm writing a Hindu prayer and I know that the prayer has come from the Sanskrit language, then it would be good for me to learn how to write the Sanskrit language prayer. I don't necessarily need to learn the language. I just need to copy the scripture correctly and get it corrected by an expert, and then just keep writing it again and again. Maybe if you write a Hebrew prayer, which is very ancient, and write it in the Hebrew language, then that could have the effect too. Okay, so go ahead and practice this. It should be interesting. Okay, so next question is there a way to distinguish if unnecessary loops are creative manipulation or something else? Where normally unnecessarily loops normally lead to manipulation and unnecessary creativity, but it depends on where the loop is and what's the purpose. So let's take, for example, if it's on a greeting card, then fanciful loops can be a compliment because it helps to make the normal situation a bit more fancy. Imagine if I come to your party and I say, "Hey, happy birthday. Come on, give me cake." You don't want that, right? You want something a little more fun and flair and, "Hey, what's up? Happy birthday. Congratulations." And come on, let's celebrate. You want to have that flary, creative kind of interaction. Now, that's fine for a celebration. But then let's say you're appearing for an exam or you're trying to submit a document to the government, and then you put unnecessary loops, and that's a manipulation, not required. So it's not easy to say this is creativity and this is manipulation. A O with a loop in a fancy card would be a compliment, but a O with a loop in a sample document or a government document or a question paper and answer, I mean, serious documents would not be beneficial. Okay, so I hope that answers the question. How can we know about our career or profession? Well, career choice and profession can be given a vague idea through handwriting based on the certain letter structures and macrographology concepts. But more than the profession, it's more about the attitude and the approach the person has towards that profession. Okay, you may be good at science, but if you're bored of it, then it won't make a difference, right? If you're a fantastic musician, you at age of 20 you got mastery of the piano and now you're bored of it. So you may be talented, but if you're bored, you won't pursue it further. So your attitude towards a career will be more visible in the handwriting rather than the actual career itself. Okay. So a company or a shop that starts the name with the letter V will succeed. Not necessarily. Any letter will allow you to succeed or have a success. Just that it will have a different flavor of success, different way of having success. All letters are good. There's no bad letter. If there was a bad letter, language itself will phase it out. It every 200 years, 300 years, certain letters phase out. Like if you check old English, there are certain letter structures you will not recognize today. You'll go to Roman English, you will see Roman language, you'll see certain letter structures which almost look like English. So it's all evolution. Some mindsets which are good at that time didn't work out as they evolved, so now they're obsolete. Okay, all right. So the last 10 minutes are remaining. Shall we have some more questions, or let's see how we go for that? Okay. All right. Hmm. Okay, so this is a very interesting question. What would happen if your letter X looks like a rounded X? Correct. So normally we write the X like this, but in cursive writing we are supposed to write the X like an S and a C touching to each other. Normally the soft X, it makes the person more diplomatic, and when they have to ask questions, their questions are much more gentle and not direct, but it's more gentle. Whereas a sharp X, which has got one line crossing the other, they like to ask questions directly upfront. Okay, so all right, so okay. Next question here is what happens when we have loops in the letter C? If letter C has a loop, then it starts to look like letter E. So you try to, then what happens? You replace the letter structure, letter meaning of letter C with E. So where you're supposed to enjoy something socially, you make it a cultural aspect, which may make you awkward in social events. Next question here is can improving the letter O improve our health? Yes, letter O is the most favorite letter when I teach graphology, and graphologically speaking, letter O is my favorite because of its effect on the breathing pattern, the eating and sleeping and energy patterns, money earning patterns, academic patterns. So if you just write a couple of O's every day with a meditative mindset, you will be able to increase your chances of improving your breathing pattern, and overall health will improve. Okay. What is the sign of ultimate courage? In the signature, or in the handwriting, if you want to see a person having good courage, normally the letter CE is very healthy. It's not a flat C, it's a very healthy rounded C, rounded E. And we can also understand that uh, when the person's signature goes slightly upwards, it's inclining slightly upwards with a good underline, it shows courage. Courage is the mentality required when you want to go from the comfort zone to the outside comfort zone aspects of life. It allows you, it pushes you towards a better version of certain things. Courage is very important for people to uh, improve their life. In fact, whenever you see a person having any trouble or any problem, if you tell them to apply the word, apply the meaning of the word courage in their life for at least 20-21 days, it completely transforms their life. You're having trouble with studies, focus on the word and the meaning of the word courage and do what you feel when you think about courage. You feel you can't talk to somebody, think about courage. You want to do better in your work, you want to increase your pay, think about courage. You want to ask a girl out, you want to ask a guy out, again, it's courage. You want to improve your academic performance, think about courage. So, as I just mentioned, letters C and E can help you to improve that. C and E, if it's healthy, can improve the thought patterns required for having better courage. Okay, all right. So that's it. 5 minutes remaining. If there are any more questions, please post them. Else, we can end it for today and we can meet again next week. All right. Any more questions, queries? I hope today's questions and queries have been relatable and you've been able to understand it very well. It's very interesting to see how people think and how graphology can somehow give answers to questions which may not always be directly related to graphology. Okay. All right. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you online with me, whether it's live or whether it's later on again when you watch me in the recorded version of this video. See you again next Wednesday. Pile up your questions, pile up your queries. Doesn't matter how many, 30, 40, 100. I'll be happy to answer to all of them. Thank you very much and see you on next Wednesday. Good day, good night, and good morning.